Welcome back, everybody, to my review for Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Episode 4. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's just get right into it. So, this episode starts off in kind of a strange way, in my opinion, with Percy and his mom when he's about 6 or 7 going to swimming lessons. His mom's making a big deal that Percy doesn't want to go swimming, that they paid money, and she gets hyperventilated, and Percy's like, hey, just calm down, Mom, that's what you tell me. And you have this kind of touching moment, my my question is why? We don't need this. This does a little bit of foreshadowing towards the end of the episode, but really it just needs to be cut out, in my opinion. It doesn't do anything else besides just kind of waste your time. It does a little foreshadowing, but it's not needed, in my opinion. Just get rid of it. We're fine. So that's easy 3 minutes that we say right there. Next scene that we see is Percy in a dream sequence with the stranger coming towards him, kind of mocking him, telling him that forbidden children draw attention and forbidden demigod children attract monstrous attention. And he cackles and laughs as Percy's whole world kind of collapses as he wakes up in the pitch darkness on the train moving to San Francisco. Now, Percy has a conversation with Annabeth, who still seems to have a stick up her rear end, who's like, yes, yes, what? She always seems to be so annoyed. Can't you bring it down? Can't you bring down her annoyance? Like, they're trying to make her too much into a badass in this entire series, in my opinion. Now, what they're initially talking about is about Thalia, because Percy's trying to get some insight into her, knowing what she faced, how she dealt with it, because as a forbidden demigod, he's trying to understand her so he can kind of learn from her mistakes and better himself. And Annabeth goes through it, telling him that, oh, she was a badass. She knew that she was a forbidden child, but she didn't care. She and Luke took me in, and we traveled across the country. Luke loved me unconditionally, though Thalia, I had to earn her respect, show her what I was worth, man. Which is kind of an insult to me for Thalia. Thalia always automatically loved Annabeth and Luke, so there was no you have to earn Thalia's respect. Yes, you gotta show your fighting skills and earn it that way, but from my recollection, Thalia always loved Annabeth, so that's just a deviation, kind of an insult to her character there, in my opinion. But we already know that these writers don't really care about their characters all that much. Now, from here, Percy goes on and states that he doesn't really understand that he doesn't understand this whole world, he doesn't understand the gods, that if the gods really cared for you, they should be there and love you. And Percy seems to be under the presumption that gods are like people, that people are going to come down and marry your mom and dad and be there for your entire lives. These are gods. At this point, Percy should have an understanding of the Greek myths, Greek mythology, how the gods interact, how they will bang anything with 2 legs. So I'm a little surprised that Percy is not understanding that what the gods are. They're entirely separate race from the humans, and they never had very good role models themselves with their Titan parentage. So it's no surprise that the gods themselves aren't the best parents. Also, these are more like elements, like Poseidon. He is the god of the ocean and of all water. He has more to deal with and worry about than coming home at 5 o'clock at night and tucking Percy in to bed. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound harsh, but the fact is that demigods, they're just demigods. Like, they're great, they're awesome, but they're just a dime a dozen, really, for the gods. So I wish I could say something more positive than that, but that's just the case. And I wish Annabeth would have jumped in here and told him that. Instead, we get an actual kind of heartfelt scene, but they also kind of butcher Annabeth a little bit here. Let me go into it. So Annabeth then starts revealing her personal story to Percy, and her story is that when her mom Athena met her dad, who's a professor, she thought he was a really great guy. So she had a thought that was the birth of Annabeth, and she gave Annabeth to her dad to take care of. Now, this whole thing right here is an issue for 2 reasons. First, you're separating Athena out from the other gods, where the other gods are just normal. They go, they knock up mortals, and they're done with it. So the same thing would have to happen to Athena. She would get pregnant, and then she would give birth to Annabeth. I know why the writers did that. They're trying like, oh, we're big brain. Like, we know Greek mythology because Athena herself, she was born from the mind of Zeus. So if we just do the same thing that Athena, she bears all her children through her mind, that's genius. In my opinion, like, no, that's dumb. That's idiotic. Just leave it be. There's no reason to have to change that. You could just say that when my mom had me, she sent me to my dad. Instead of coming up with this whole BS It doesn't matter. It's not real. Like, okay, yes, you can also say, oh, Carl, why are you making such a big deal of it? I'm making a big deal of it because you are changing the fabric of this universe every chance you get. And this is just another example of it, so I'm pointing it out. Regardless, Athena brings Annabeth to her dad, who takes her in lovingly and really loves her, and then he gets married to an evil stepmother with her own kids, and they're fighting and bickering. It's just not a good home life. The stepmother just hates Annabeth. Now, what's my problem with this? My issue is that when Athena brought Annabeth to her dad initially, he just completely flat out rejects her. He doesn't want anything to do with Annabeth. He asks Athena, in fact, to take her back. And Athena tells her dad that gods can't raise demigods, the moral parent has to, and thus she leaves her with her dad. So already we have a little bit of a tragedy story going on here that her dad doesn't want her, and then he goes ahead and marries a woman who has two kids of her own, and unfortunately the mom doesn't really like Annabeth because of what she is. She will attract monsters, cause trouble, and then there'll be a fight that breaks out, and this happens over and over. Decides to just leave and escape, where she then meets up with Luke and Thalia, and then eventually Grover, and that's how they get to Camp Half Blood. I personally like the story where her dad doesn't want her, because it just brings in more of the tragedy to it that she wasn't loved by her father, she barely knows her mother, whereas in this, I don't really like the story as much. It gives Annabeth a more tragic story if you give the book version, and I think they should have kept with that. Now, they do create a great little scene here with Grover and Annabeth and Percy on how kids would actually talk with each other. Not so formal, not so straight, just a lot of jokes and laughing. Like, I wish you would have brought this into the rest of the episode and figure out a better way to weave that into their conversations. I felt it was mostly clunky and not very well done, and I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. But at least there was some areas that I could see where a good script was versus what we've been getting throughout the rest of this episode. So from here we move on to the dining car because it's the next day and they're having some breakfast when all of a sudden their apartment gets attacked. Though they don't realize until a police officer comes up to them who has a lot of stuff on his kit. Like, I wouldn't expect an officer on a train or a security guard on a train to have that much stuff on him. So I'm a little kind of surprised that he is that well equipped. But regardless, he brings them back over to the room. He shows them the desolated room. And the kids claim that they weren't responsible, but they have a witness who says that they are. And immediately Annabeth, she goes into like, are we under arrest? Are we under arrest? Are we under arrest? Like, are you trying to play into a stereotype of a black woman immediately confronting authority about whether they're getting arrested or not? Really? Also, showrunners, at this point in time, Percy is a wanted kid. His photos have been everywhere. Everyone's looking for him. This is not a good thing. If this guy's an actual police officer, the moment he sees Percy, he should be like, you're the kid that disappeared after his mom blew up. I'm calling this into the New York office, and we're going to get you on a car back to New York pronto so we can question you and figure out what the heck is going on. So this whole scene is dumb in my opinion, but that's the writers for you. We know we're not dealing with top tier writers. So the officer brings them back into the dining car and has them sit down as they discuss on what they're going to do with the kids. Now, as officers are discussing this, the lady who turned them in comes over to them and starts talking to them sweetly. And this is when Grover points out that there's glass on this lady's shirt. You were the one who attacked our room. Now, what is this an issue for me? This is an issue for me because it's tell, not show. If they showed us that there's glass on her that's still dripping off, that she has like some of their stuff in her pockets, or like just some kind of indicator that she was the one that went through the room and just destroyed it, that would be one thing. But we got nothing from here except for Grover just telling us that, which fine, but we already knew that the lady was odd and strange for wanting to come over and sit with kids. Couldn't you at least give us some indicators that this is a dangerous woman without having one of the characters just bleed it out? Like, are we really that simple that we can't understand this is a dangerous person just from visual cues? Come on, guys. Let's just be real here. But regardless, with that revelation from Grover, Percy Jackson makes a note that, hey, we've dealt with a lot of your kind before, so you might want to just, leave us be. And she just goes ahead and mentions that, oh, well, they're all my children. So, I'm going to let you deal with this other son of mine. And at that, the bag opens, and immediately Percy gets stuck by a giant scorpion tail. Annabeth rushes forward, jabs a bronze knife into the tail, causing it to retreat back into its kennel, and the three kids are able to escape. Now, they're running down the train, which is fine, you're escaping, but how much are you going to actually be able to do? Like, it's a train. Well, that's where TV show magic starts to kick in. They just start closing the doors. That seems to slow down the monster long enough for the train to start to slow down and get them into St. Louis. Now, why is this kind of insane? Because they were out in the middle of nowhere just a little bit ago, and now they're pulling into St. Louis. Like, you guys shouldn't have had that much time to get off the train. So, movie magic, I guess. It just kind of took me out of it when I was watching it myself. Now, as Annabeth, Percy, and Grover are escaping the train, they're making their way over to supposedly a sanctuary for Athena, which is this giant art structure. Again, not in the books, but hey, we're just making it up as we go here now, aren't we? So, Annabeth leading Percy and Grover to her mother's sanctuary. Annabeth gives us a little bit of history, and Grover also points out that it's not just a monument for the gods, but for other things. Like, you could have gone into the great history of this, that this is the portal to the West. This is how we conquered the West, how America expanded from just the East Coast to the Midwest and beyond. But instead, they make it sound like this horrific, absolutely devastating thing that was absolutely wretched. And you can't even just talk about it. Like, guys, come on. If you're going to talk about how, like, this was a massive undertaking that no one has seen it before. Like, it completely changed America for the better. Like, no, no one does it. Now, there was that Western expansion, the Oregon Trail. All of that is incredible bit of American history that we should be holding ourselves up with pride and actually talking about. But, it's Disney, so we can't talk anything that's good and positive about America, and anything that's great, we have to undermine with modern day politics after all. Now, at this point, Grover tells Annabeth and Percy that he's going to head off and go try to get tickets for another train to get over to San Francisco, since obviously they can't take the one that they just escaped from. So as he goes to do that, Percy and Annabeth are having a little bit of conversation how lucky it was for them to end up in St. Louis, where it just happened to be a temple and sanctuary for Athena. Annabeth, on the other hand, sees it as more as fate, and she knows that Percy doesn't necessarily believe her when she says that she has such a strong connection with Athena. Percy, for his credit, says like, hey, I was just a demon god a little bit ago. You shouldn't really take what I have in account to say. And as a good friend does, like, hey, don't worry too much. I mean, I know you got this thing going on, so I support you, but I just don't really know. Whereas Annabeth comes back and says like, one of the dumbest thing in the entire episode so far, that she knows that this is a temple to Athena, but it's still a temple, so Percy should be able to make some prayers to his dad here. Now, why is this the dumbest thing you can say? Greek gods. Do I need to say more? Greek gods are not known for being okay with people coming into their temples and worshiping other deities. I mean, that's kind of the whole reason why Medusa turned into a she-snake, is because she brought over Poseidon into Athena's temple, and they had some alone time together. Athena caught them, and she transformed Medusa into, well, the Medusa that we now know, the Demigorgons, along with her three sisters. So, yeah, praying to another god inside another god's temple is not a good idea, especially if it's the son of Poseidon to his father. I really doubt Athena would look too kindly on that. Luckily for Percy Jackson's sake, we never see that happen, because he just outright says like, hey, I don't want to have anything to do with my dad. He had his chance, so I don't really feel like having a conversation right now. That if I'm going to stick with anybody, I'm going to stick with you. Which is kind of the exact reversal of what's in the books, because Annabeth is actually the one that has that line in the books when Percy and her are talking about the gods and whose side, which god is going to be on for the war if Poseidon and Zeus do go to war. If Athena would be on Zeus' side, like the Trojan War. And at that, Annabeth says like she doesn't know which side her mom would pick, but she knows that she will stick on Percy Jackson's side because he's her friend. So they did the exact opposite here. So I don't really understand why you keep feeling the need to change things up. Like, can't you have at least some things exactly the same as the books, besides just the locations, besides just the tinfoil wrapping? Could you have something deeper than just a facade? I guess not. As Percy says this, he then collapses from his poison he's taken. At that, Percy and Grover drag Percy out of the sanctuary into a fountain where they start cupping water onto him, which he's not healing from, which is completely idiotic, because this should be healing him. So I don't understand why he's not getting healed except for plot reason, drama. And don't worry, the drama is coming right now. For as they're trying to heal Percy, a car goes flying, Chimera's coming, and they see Echidna walking towards them. Immediately they grab Percy and try to lug him back to the arch and are planning to bring him to the top of the arch because apparently that's where the altar for Athena is, and they're going to ask Annabeth's mom for help, which is a bad idea on two accounts. First, you're going into a cornered area where the monster can more easily eat you. Two, you're going to go ask a god for help to defeat a monster for you. I don't know if you know the Greek myths, but the gods weren't very well known for dealing with their children's problems. And that's clearly stated in the books that the reason why demigods go on quests is to prove themselves to their parents that they're actually heroic, they're strong and independent. Just relying on your mom and dad to save you from every monster wouldn't be called a Greek tale anymore, now would it? So that is a bit of a change on what the Greek myths are supposed to be. So even if they do get there, I really doubt Athena would do anything to help if they were going to follow the story along. Now, as they're getting towards the elevator, all of a sudden they hear the Chimera coming through, and it looks like Annabeth all of a sudden has a precognition or is hearing something, but we don't know what quite yet. So the trio get into the elevator and making their way up. As they're going up, Annabeth then relays to Percy and Grover what she just found out, that her mom's a little bit pissed at her because they sent the head of Medusa to Olympus, even though it wasn't her fault. I mean, Percy points that out just plain like, hey, it was I who sent it, so why is your mom getting pissed? Which is a very good question. Now, I don't mind Percy getting some sort of punishment for that. It was disrespectful to the gods, so we never did see Percy really get reprised for that. But Athena, why the heck would you punish your daughter Annabeth? First off, it was the upstart Percy Jackson that sent it up to Olympus, so you should be pissed at him. And he's the son of Poseidon, so you should be doubly pissed at him. And you should be understanding of your daughter Annabeth for wanting to prove herself and for putting up with Percy. So there's several layers here that don't make sense, but regardless, they're now in trouble, so gotta let the plot happen, even though it makes no sense why you're punishing Annabeth, because yes, she could have stopped Percy, but even if she would have said like, hey, I don't think you should do this, what, was she going to kill Percy to stop him? Come on, writers, don't be that dumb. Regardless, they get to the top, and surprise, surprise, there's a bunch of people up there. Not a very good place to fight. It's confined, and yeah, this was just a really bad idea. So, seeing that they're trapped, Annabeth offers to go fight it. Seeing that Percy is now like completely wasted from the poison, but Percy, he's about to hand her a sword, so she can at least have something long to fight with. But somehow he's able to get his friends into a side closet, close the door, and lock them in, so that he's the one that actually faces the Chimera. Which, hey, I respect. I'm glad that they're actually showing the heroic side of Percy Jackson in this scene. Now, as he turns around, he sees Echidna and her Chimera coming forward. The Chimera is just growing larger and larger until it's just this massive beast taking up most of the walkway. Percy tries to fight it, but it's not really to any avail. His sluggishness in battle is causing a massive hindrance right now. The creature is burning the area, and it just doesn't look like it's going to go well for Percy. Now, something really weird happens. Echidna just takes her finger and points it down on one section of the walkway of the arch, and it just opens this massive hole, which monsters don't have that power. Now, if she had a fireball and threw it at it, or some kind of dark energy or lightning, okay, maybe I'd understand that. But just the finger whap? What, is she supposed to be Magneto? Come on, guys. At least let the Chimera be the one that makes holes and damages the archway. Really? You had to do this? So why am I so upset about this? Because in the books, this fight scene is taking place up in the arch, just as it was here, for different reasons and better, if I can say. But regardless, the creature is the one that makes the hole, and it's in the side of the arch where Percy has to make a decision. Does he die by the creature's claws, trying to save people that are still up there, or does he leap out of the arch towards his doom, towards the river and ground below? Or does he somehow defeat the monster? In the books, Percy decides to sacrifice himself by jumping out to try to protect the civilians that are up there, and, well, he's screaming for his fathers to help him as he's plummeting to his doom. Where in the episode, the Chimera is the one that causes Percy Jackson to fall through the hole, just barely hanging on to the edge of it for dear life. And why is that an issue? Because he didn't make the choice. In the books, he made the choice to sacrifice himself for people he didn't even know. In this, he doesn't get to make a choice to make that sacrificial play. Yes, you could say that, oh, well, he made a choice to fight the Chimera alone. Yes, but there could have been better writing done for that. Instead, he's just dangling there off the edge, not really doing a sacrifice play at all, until eventually he loses his grasp and falls to the ground below to die. Now, thankfully, a water from the river blasts out and comes over and grabs and brings him into the riverbed, but that's where the weirdness really starts taking place when we see that Percy's at the bottom of the riverbed with his foot caught on something. Like, why the heck would a nymph send that geyser out to go grab Percy, to bring him into the water, to just trap him there? That doesn't make any sense to me at all, so I've got to really wonder what's going on there. Now, at the same time this is going on, a water nymph is coming up to him. According to Percy in the books, it looked just like his mom, except with blue skin, and even says that. Whereas in the show, you can't really see the nymph all that well. You just know she's there and you see some kind of an outline of her, but it's not that apparent. And she's just saying, breathe, Percy, breathe. Like, you're just trying to play out the foreshadowing you did at the beginning of the episode, which is completely dumb. If it was me as a writer, I would have just ended it with Percy landing in the water. That's how it would end. But that's how I would end it, with him just falling in the water and meeting up with Poseidon's water nymph in the next episode. But that's me. Overall, again, it has parts that are okay, parts that I have major issues with. We have the scenes, we have some dialogue bits and pieces here, we have the parts of the story, but we're lacking the actual characteristics, we're lacking the actual characters. Honestly, this is doing more damage to Percy Jackson than I think is actually doing good. Annabeth's story, somewhat okay, but you're taking away bits and pieces and you're adding bits and pieces that don't really make sense. I didn't even get into the fact that it wasn't Grover that told Percy that he wanted to become a searcher, and a searcher is a fawn that goes out looking for Pan, their god, who will help them restore the wild from the devastation of humanity. It was Annabeth that told Percy this. Like, why are you taking away from Grover? Like, this is one of the best parts of Grover. Like, the whole reason why he came on this quest, at least in the books, was so that he could prove himself as a searcher and go forth to go find Pan. I mean, we never get that. And we don't even get the juiciest part, that no searcher has ever returned for the search of Pan. That has been going on for the last 1,000 years. For the last 1,000 years, no one has seen or heard from Pan, and every searcher has gone dying, and Grover wants to go do this like his Uncle Ferdinand, like his dad. Like, we didn't get any of that. That would have been a great part to play it, but instead we get a stupid scene with Percy's mom at the beginning. We get this clumsy scene with Echidna on the train, and we get this somewhat odd but not really useful scene inside the sanctuary of Athena. Like, come on, guys, do a little bit better here. I'm not asking for much. Just help me out. But hey, that's Disney for you. They don't really even listen to any of their old properties, and I guess I shouldn't have expected much from this one either. But hey, let me know down in the comment section below. Am I a blowhard? Am I going a little bit too hard on this? Or am I just going a little bit too rambly for you guys? Let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.